One of the dumbest hot takes in literature, and I've heard it repeated a ton in relation to the Cormac McCarthy scandal this week, is that you have to separate the art from the artist. And if you separate the art from the artist, most likely you are going to be stuck in a mode of low literary analysis your entire life, because we already went through this process. We have already been whipped with this idea as a society that we need to separate the art from the artist with a philosophy called New Criticism, which dominated philosophy and literature departments for decades. And it wasn't until guys like Harold Bloom and others pulled us out of the drudgery of New Criticism that we've been able to understand the complex nature of some of the greatest works of all time. Because most of you guys out there aren't goats, aren't geniuses when it comes to close reading. Close reading is a very hard thing to do. If you are going to take a new critical point of view toward a text and actually extract meaning from it, then it is more difficult than I think you can imagine. And I spent 8 years in academia doing this, and it was one of the most challenging things I had to do. And it's important to be able to do it. But unless you are reading a work like An Infinite Jest that is maximalist and tells you everything, most works have a very overt or a covert form of the Hemingway iceberg theory infused into them. And the whole idea of separating the art from the artist is a way for people to skip out on the accountability of reading someone. Guess what, you guys? I read Cormac McCarthy, Heidegger, Evola, Mishima. I've read biographies of Hitler and Stalin and so many other problematic figures. And I have learned things from all of those biographies and books. I have learned things from those individuals that have changed how I live my day-to-day life in what I think is a positive way. And I would never apologize or even associate or take anyone seriously who would think that because I read Julius Evola that I am a fascist, or that I like Cormac McCarthy that I'm a pedophile. And the art is the artist, everybody. Nabokov, though, isn't a pedophile because he wrote Lolita. But his style, his energy, that idea is of his own. And when you look at, for instance, Nabokov's life, it has been rumored and talked about a ton in Nabokov theory that he was raped by his uncle. And that was kind of him getting out his trauma. And that's why he was able to write about it so well. And I think there is a general block around this idea that the art is the artist, because once you accept it, then you have to put in the extra work. You have to start reading secondary sources. You have to start thinking and contemplating deeper ideas. You have to start engaging with schizo theorists, sometimes like me, who maybe get it all wrong or have ideas that you may not agree with. You have to start engaging with people who talk about stuff that you don't know about. If you want to understand Cormac McCarthy at a deep level, you need to understand Christianity, Gnosticism, Heidegger, Peirce, Nietzsche, Schopenhauer. Not at a deep level, but just their general philosophy. And that's what is so great about literary analysis, is that the deeper you go, the better you become as a thinker and as an individual, in my opinion, if you are doing it correctly. And so let's talk about some examples. We are talking about Cormac McCarthy here. And in Cormac McCarthy's second novel, Outer Dark, it's a novel about a brother and a sister. And they've had sex together, and they've had this baby. And I won't spoil anything here, but you could read that novel and get a lot out of it with close reading. But then when you realize and you get the information that Cormac McCarthy, the month he started that work, abandoned his first wife and child, it changes everything. When you start to realize that Cormac McCarthy was reading Gnosticism and starting to kind of view Christianity in a darker lens in that time, you start finding Gnosticism everywhere. But without that extra biographical information, no one would ever technically be right. And this is why logic bros love New Criticism and love the idea of separating the art from the artist, because they can endlessly argue and call other people wrong. But with a guy like Cormac McCarthy, who in his art has included in at least 80% of his novels, if not every single one of his novels, some weird form of underage sex or odd sexual behavior, you would have to be an idiot to say that he is not a weird individual. And I think this idea of separating the art from the artist makes it easier to worship the artist. It makes it easier to worship these individuals because you always have that out. You don't have to explain anything to anybody. Yeah, Cormac was weird. He dated underage girls. And what's crazy is that maybe made him a better writer. That weirdness, that inner darkness, most likely is why his dark novels are so good. Does that mean you need to go and do that? No, but Cormac McCarthy was set up for that his entire life. He was abused by his father, and that's why he wrote in his first novel, The Orchard Keeper. If you don't know about McCarthy's life and about how he was abused and neglected, then you don't even know why he became an author in the first place. And I could sit and do this for any author on the shelf behind me, but if we are actually going to create a literary renaissance, if we are going to create an educational and spiritual awakening through literature, our own literature, and by elevating people from the past, then we actually have to be interested in the project. We have to elevate people and the good qualities of them, even if they've done shitty things, because we need their energy for the cause. We are going to need to accept some odd and weird individuals into the movement, because no great artist is usually just a random normie. We are going to need to harden ourselves to cancel culture and develop the third mentality, not shitting on authors, not worshiping authors, but viewing authors as a tool for our own positive personal transformation, because that's what everything in your life should be. If you aren't thinking like that, then what the hell is wrong with you? You should be manipulating everything in your life, any piece of information coming into your head right now, including what I'm telling you, to positively change your own life so you can change the lives of others. If you are not doing that, then you are a random NPC and net negative here on earth. And I will ask you right now, what the hell is your purpose here? And so I want you guys to reflect on this, because what I would call the right and conservatives and kind of the new right intelligentsia is going to push this idea that the art is not the artist in an act to try to preserve classic literature. And the left and the new intelligent left is going to try and cancel the canon like they have been for decades in efforts to push new authors and push their ideas into kind of the forefront of the pinnacle of intellectual thought. But both sides are blinded because of their dialectical addiction, because of their choice to get polarized on one side of a fake political aisle in the first place, to actually having a growth-oriented mindset in every single aspect of their life. Because when I see people who are addicted to politics, when I see people who are scared individuals and actually are not divergent and unique individuals, the amount of internal blocks, whether that's religion or trauma or the inability to access higher consciousness or deeper states of the self, mystical states, whatever you want to talk about it, they are highly apparent. And what's great in 2024 is that we have the ability to transcend a lot of the malignant qualities that people like Cormac McCarthy and the artist behind me had through the abundance of information and resources at our disposal. If you are an addict, if you are someone who is a manipulator or addicted to sex or an abuser or have whatever problem, you can get over that really earlier in your life. You could take a year off from art and solve most of your problems by reading 40 books and just really working hard to apply it, and maybe going to therapy or getting involved with religion or spirituality or something like that. And when you start vibrating high enough, when you start hitting the next level, it's really easy to look back and be able to read the most controversial figures of all time and take stuff from them and integrate them into your own heart and not feel guilty, not feel weird. And that is the point of reading, because what is the point of reading literary fiction? Are you just trying to be entertained? Are you just trying to be the smartest asshole in the room? Are you trying to be the know-it-all? Or are you trying to create synapses? Are you trying to learn about the human experience? Are you trying to make the world a better place? Like, honestly, what are you doing here? Why are you reading? Were you not paid attention to enough in school? Was your sister smarter than you? Like, what the hell? Why are you doing this? And if you are using it to transform yourself, then what are you doing with that power? I know guys, everyone, who are more well-spoken than I am, better individuals, better at technical, like they are better than me in every single way in terms of spreading knowledge, love, and light out in the world. But they refuse to do anything with that. And so, in my opinion, if you've achieved kind of this literary peak where you know the art is the artist, but you still can integrate the positive parts while leaving the malignant parts behind, and you do nothing with that, I think that's negative karma. I think that's worse than if you never woke up at all. Because what are you actually doing? Oh, you're an informed person and you're a little bit nicer to your wife, and you're going to be a happy, smart Joe going through the world who can tell everyone about Tolstoy. Or you could be someone that changes tens of thousands of people's lives without that much effort. And so I'm calling on you, if you are listening to me right now, to start thinking how in the next 3 to 10 years, you will contribute to the literary renaissance, how you will contribute to the project of awakening the masses through education. It doesn't have to be on YouTube. It doesn't even have to be online, but you need to figure it out. And if you don't want to figure it out, then I will say it right now. You are a selfish jerk. And hopefully at some point you have an NDE or a trip or an experience in silence, maybe when you wake up in the middle of the night and you realize that I need you for the literary renaissance.